Tooling is pretty important here. IT security teams have their own tools. I know this from sort of working with them. Maybe 3 or 4 different tools doing things, but they all start with visibility. So I'm wondering from your perspective, is there a sort of a case to try and do that really well once somewhere, centrally or whatever?
That's where IT asset management plays a role, and it's essentially the repository of all software that is used within the organization. It discovers all the software that's running on your data center as well as on your cloud infrastructure. It also looks at your end user computing devices, brings all this information in, and provides that central repository of information to security ops and vulnerability teams to take a look into. Now, there are 2 aspects to the software that we discovered here. One is the commercially available off-the-shelf software, which you would have licensed, or they're probably open source software that you would have installed, and you discover those, and you would want to look at the vulnerability information related to those. Now, this is the information that you get from NIST, where they have this repository of CVEs, which are talking about vulnerabilities, and they also provide information on which software are impacted by that vulnerability using the CPE standards that they have come up with. So essentially, ITAM is that tool that will have to provide the translation of what is mentioned on the NIST database on the CPEs, translate that to the actual software that is discovered, and provide that visibility to the vulnerability teams to be able to search for software that they think are vulnerable. So the ability to search using the CVE records would be provided by ITAM tools. That's one side of the game. The other aspect is when you have your own CI/CD tools, where you are using to develop your own homegrown software. You may be using some software that is open source. That could be some frameworks that you are using, and these are all bundled into the software. And there is no way that any tool can have visibility into the different components that go into that. That's where SBOM, which we talked about earlier, plays a role here. When the CI/CD tools are able to attach an SBOM information, it could be in any of the open source formats that are available today for SBOMs, then that information can be used again by ITAM tools to translate what is in the SBOM to what is actually discovered and provide that visibility to these vulnerability teams. So it plays a role in both, and it's essentially playing the role of the repository holder, the ability to provide that translation from what is commercially seen to what is actually discovered, and also ensure that any action that can be taken can be done to either ensure that those systems that are discovered with vulnerabilities are isolated or uninstall the software. So those actions can also be taken from IT asset management. So all these features that are required in an IT asset management tool to provide support for these additional teams.